Hi, this is Sally and welcome to Reclaiming Pride LGBT plus survivors of narcissistic abuse. Before we start, there is a trigger warning. The episodes of this podcast may at times refer to domestic violence, emotional, financial and sexual abuse. To begin, as always, I'd like us to have a one-word feelings check, and that is, what is one word for how you are feeling in this moment? It's a centering exercise and I want you to try and think about just yourself. What's one word for how you are feeling right now? This week, we're going to be looking at sexual intimacy in a relationship with the narcissist. Truly, this really is a misnomer because narcissists and people with NPD cannot actually experience true intimacy. This is only the lie that they tell themselves and the lies that they feed you and me during the love bombing stage. While narcissists can wreak havoc on most aspects of intimacy, their behavior in the bedroom can be surprisingly confusing. They often lack empathy and crave constant validation, but some experts claim they can also be passionate and skilled lovers. This creates a tangled web for their partners, leaving them wondering, is this real or is this just another manipulative tactic? Yes, it's very, very common. So people who have been in relationships with narcissists, intimate relationships, for a relatively long period of time will tell you that, yes, in fact, they actually are quite skilled lovers in that sense. But actually, lover is a misnomer. They're not loving anyone. One of the things you will have quickly started to notice if you're a survivor of an intimate relationship with a narcissist is that the relationship is highly transactional. You give me, I give you back in every way. And sex is no exception. Okay, so it's transactional in every way, in and out of the bed. Narcissists often engage in transactional sexual relationships, meaning sex is a tool to serve their needs rather than an expression of mutual intimacy. So here's how it can play out. There's the focus on self-gratification with them. So narcissists prioritize their own sexual pleasure and desires and disregard their partner's needs and wants. They may pressure or manipulate their partner into certain acts. Then there's, of course, the cardinal one, the lack of empathy. So they struggle to understand or care about their partner's emotional response during sex. They might criticize you. They might say it's not enough. They might say it's too much. More noise, less noise, all the things. So anything they can pick on, they will pick on it. So their focus, don't forget, is still on fulfilling their own desires. So it's however they want to feel. You will need to serve that. Then there's the sense of entitlement. So narcissists often believe they deserve sex whenever they want it, regardless of their partner's mood or availability. They might guilt, pressure, punish, or even coerce their partner into sex. Just like everywhere else in their life, they want validation constantly. So sex for a narcissist is yet another form of validation. So for a narcissist, it can be a way to boost their ego. They might fish for compliments about their performance or seek constant reassurance about their physical attractiveness. Or they might just keep going on and on about their physical attractiveness to you, and actually you will be laying there or sitting there with actually no idea what they find attractive about you. Because don't forget, it's not about you, it's about them. So initially, there's even the love bombing. In the love bombing stage at the beginning of the relationship, there's also the love bombing in the bedroom. So they may shower their partner with attention and prioritize their partner's pleasure during sex. But this is fake. This is a tactic to win their partner over and therefore establish control, and then they will start to flip it. There's performance anxiety and bragging. They may have an inflated sense of their own sexual prowess and constantly brag about it. This can be a way to mask deeper insecurities. There's pressure and manipulation. They might use guilt trips, like we said, emotional manipulation and coercion to get what they want. There's disinterest in emotional connection. So sex is purely physical and lacks emotional intimacy. They may not be interested in connecting with their partner on a deeper level. So I remember that she would want to be intimate when we'd had an absolutely horrendous day, or she would talk about the fact that her ex, who she lived with and everything, would have sex, which is this kind of anonymous sex, even though they were separated and going through a horrible separation. They would have sex, and it was just this kind of anonymous sex that quote unquote fulfilled both of their needs, I actually really doubt that that's what was going on. Then they have these double standards. So they might expect their partner to be readily available for sex whenever they want it, but actually they will then withhold sex as a form of punishment. Then there's infidelity. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this. I know I did. Their sense of entitlement and lack of empathy can lead to infidelity. So they may not feel remorse for betraying their partner, and they will do it over and over again. Here are some of the red flags to watch out for. The sex feels one-sided and doesn't address your needs. You're pressured or manipulated into unwanted sexual acts. They compare having sex with you to having sex with their ex or exes or other people generally that they've had sex with constantly and in great detail. They get angry or withdrawn if you don't fulfill their desires because they'll take this personally. They'll start to punish you and say that you're lying, that, you don't really love them, and so on and so forth. And then finally, sex is used as a reward or a punishment. Okay, sex should never be used as either of those things. I'm going to say that again. Sex should never be used as a reward or a punishment. There's also a focus on physicality. So sex becomes more about physical release than emotional connection. It feels transactional and it feels mechanical. It lacks a natural flow or spontaneity. And in fact, if you do attempt to be spontaneous, they might push back. They might punish you for doing this and shut you out completely. Because don't forget, everything has to be on their terms. They'll claim they want you to be spontaneous, and then as soon as you are, you'll be punished for it. They actually don't want that. Then there's forced intimacy. So there'll be attempts at affection that might feel controlled and forced, and they lack genuine warmth or closeness. I remember this one very, very particularly. Most attempts at intimacy, whether it was even just a peck on the cheek or something, just felt very forced. It looked controlled, and it lacked anything genuine. And it was always when she wanted something. I'd find out a few hours later or the next day, and then would be punished when, she perhaps didn't perceive that she was getting the thing that she wanted. As if to say, I had to go through all that with you and you're not even going to give me what I want. Like that kind of whole feeling about it. There's a disregard for your needs, so your desires and comfort level might be secondary. So initiating intimacy at inappropriate times also happens, and it can be disruptive and inconsiderate. There's also an absence of playfulness. Have you noticed this? There's kind of almost a sinister absence of playfulness in lovemaking with this person. Like, it's almost like trying to have a conversation with them or really anything with them. It's just there's no ease about it. It's just the slightest thing that you do, or you could even move a slight way, and the experience completely lacks joy and lightheartedness that can make sex and intimacy enjoyable, frankly. In my own past relationship with a narcissist, I remember that sex was also a huge place for projection of her insecurity. So she would accuse me of being disconnected and for not being able to feel pleasure properly. These were all things and more that she was actually exhibiting herself, and it was very obvious. Honestly, sex with a narcissist feels like a punishment. While she would go to great lengths to prioritize her own sexual satisfaction, she tended to report low sexual satisfaction and place the blame on me. Narcissists commonly judge or criticize their partner's performance or suggest that sex has become boring and needs to change, be more spontaneous to meet the sexual narcissist's sexual needs. Sexual narcissists may hint or even overtly threaten that they will look elsewhere for satisfaction if their partner can't step it up. This was very much a constant in the situationship with my ex. She even did things like she would post pictures that we had taken in a recent vacation when we were first together. She posted them on a dating app and, trying to get partners to have sex with. And these were photos that I'd taken of her when we were on vacation. Then she called me once just before I was about to go in and teach a class to tell me that she'd just done just that. Does any of this sound familiar to you? The better the sex, the worse the mood swing and punishment the day afterwards, and on and on. I started to learn that this would happen like clockwork. The better the time we had, the worse the abuse that followed, almost as if she was punishing me for being intimate with her and trying to push me away as hard as she had pulled me in. Sex with a narcissist is powerful, confusing, damaging, hurtful, haunting, belittling, and it goes against everything that is true intimacy. I think the key word there for me is just haunting. It really is. Narcissists crave constant validation. They enter relationships with one-sided contract, which is you provide endless admiration and they'll maybe meet your basic needs and maintain appearances. Empathy, non-existent. Needs, always theirs first. So what about when the narcissist withholds sex? Narcissists tend to weaponize intimacy. Okay, that's a really important point. Narcissists tend to weaponize intimacy. They're notorious for wielding control in relationships, as we know, and the bedroom is no exception. So initially, the relationship might be filled with passion, but this can shift quite quickly and dramatically. And here's why the narcissist might withhold sex. They maintain control. Sex becomes a bargaining chip. By denying intimacy, they manipulate their partner into fulfilling their desires whenever they want it. Then you've got a punishment tactic. They use it as a punishment tactic. Didn't like what you said? Didn't do what they wanted? Prepare for the sex drought as a punishment for disobeying them and not reading their mind. They use sex to fuel insecurity. So through withholding and potentially shaming their partner's sexuality, they exploit insecurities to further manipulate and control. And don't forget, in the LGBT plus community, someone may already have been ostracized and shamed because of who they are. So to meet then a partner who you are intimate with, who then goes ahead and shames you for who you are, is a massive death blow. All of this creates a cycle of dependence and confusion. The partner, yearning for intimacy, tries harder to please the narcissist, and this further solidifies the unhealthy dynamic. You see how it's working? It's an awful cycle. The bottom line is, it was never your fault. It was always their fault. There are rarely times in life when we can fully say this, right? But this, listeners, is the unicorn. It was the narcissist all along. It was always their fault. They were always the one in the wrong. They lacked the capacity for trust, intimacy, and love. It wasn't you. You fell for the intricate lie they sold you because you tried to love them. I want to leave you with the narcissist's honest love speech. Imagine if they'd have said this to you right at the beginning of the relationship. What would you have done if they'd have said, "Love means you worship the ground I walk on. Don't expect much in return. And my interest has an expiration date. Soon you'll start to bore me, and I will begin to punish you for this." Over and over again. Boundaries? Forget about that. My whims reign supreme. Agree with everything, even the obvious lies and abuse, and don't dare question me. I'll throw you some crumbs time and again, just material stuff, to keep you compliant. That's my definition of love. Please note, this podcast is not intended to replace professional therapy or counselling. It serves as a supplementary resource for support and encouragement. Listeners, you are encouraged to seek professional help if needed. I did, and it still works for me today. Take care, and I look forward to healing with you again next time. Bye-bye.